Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Morgan, and right now I'm in my childhood bedroom, so I thought this would be a good time to make a video talking about some of my favorite childhood books. So I have a list. It's not really a list, it's several piles of books on my bed that kind of add up to about 10 little categories. So I'm gonna call this like my 10 favorite childhood books, but it's actually more than 10. Since I don't like to be too repetitive, I am gonna skip some of the like highlight series that everybody sort of mentions. So Twilight, Harry Potter, Hunger Games, and Percy Jackson I'm not gonna mention, even though all of those are very important to me and I do own all of those books and series in their entirety. Those aren't gonna be on this list because I love them with all my heart, but so does everybody else, and I don't really want to spend my time talking about those. Let's get started. These books are in no particular order, but the first one I want to start with is probably the most important one on this list, and that is Matilda by Roald Dahl. This was my first favorite book. I started reading like very young, so this was my favorite book by the time I was like already in second grade. And it's about a little girl who's very smart and loves to read, and when she goes to school, she realizes that she has telepathic powers. And it was just life-changing for me. The illustration is, like, they're beautiful. They're by Quentin Blake. And it's just such a funny, humorous story. I fell in love with the character. I fell in love with the writing. And this book is super important to me. And this is one that I'm always, when I watch people's videos that are like, my favorite childhood books, and nobody ever mentions this one, I'm always like, did I miss something? Like, isn't this everybody's most important number one favorite childhood fave? But I guess not. This kind of segues into number 2 on this list, which is just the rest of Roald Dahl's books. So the ones that I have that I own are The Witches, James and the Giant Peach, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar and 6 More, Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator, and obviously the first one, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. These are all amazing and wonderful. He has such a fun way of writing, a fun way of describing things that is just really, really original, and I just loved it so much. I'm not going to describe the plots of all of these, but I will say one that people don't really talk about that often is The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, and that is a novella or a short story, I don't really know, but it's in the middle of this book, and it tells a story of a man who's just not a very good person, and he's selfish, and he's, you know, rich, and all of his friends are just like mean, and he decides that he wants to learn how to see without his eyes in order to cheat at cards. And it is just such a good story, and it's inventive and original, and it just really, it's a good character study, and I just really, really loved it. So that's one that I would recommend even now picking up to check out. I do know Roald Dahl has had some questionable quotes of his floating around. As much as it hurts me, I do have to acknowledge that, like, when a writer says something problematic, you have to take that into account when you read their work, but I didn't know that when I was younger, and I still really, really treasure these books as a part of my childhood that I'm probably never going to leave behind. They're still some of my favorites, like the BFG, Boy, I think there's one just called Boy, there's another one like Champion of the World, stuff like that. The next books I'm going to talk about are also ones where when I watch people's like favorite childhood books videos, I'm like, where is this series? It was so good. And that for me is going to be the City of Ember series by Jeanne DuPrau. I don't know how to say her first name, but it's the City of Ember, The People of Sparks. The third one is called The Prophet of Yonwood, and it's actually like a prequel. And then there's The Diamond of Darkhold, and I don't own the third one because it's my least favorite in the series. But this is so good and so original. I love it. The first book, The City of Ember, tells the story of Lena and June, who are assigned roles in their town, the City of Ember. They don't really like the jobs that they were given, so they switch, and they realize that there's something wrong with Ember. It's a dying city, and they find instructions on how to leave, and nobody's ever left Ember before, so it's such a good book. Highly recommend. The funny thing about this is that I bought this book at the same time as I bought the first Percy Jackson book. I was at the bookstore, I was at Barnes & Noble with my dad, and we were waiting in line with this one. This woman was standing in line with us, and she was asking me about the books I was getting and things like that, and she said, you know, I teach English to younger children. And there's a series that they really, really like. It's called the Percy Jackson series, and maybe you should check it out. And I loved reading, so I was like, okay, and I sprinted back to the children's section, and I found the first book, and I took it home, and I read it like so fast. And it was so funny to me that these two books, to me, they came into my life at exactly the same time with exactly the heft and importance and impact. And for me to realize that the city of Ember got like much less attention from like everybody else is just really shocking, because it's so good. It really is. They made a movie about it, and I think the movie was just okay, but I remember thinking the guy who played Dune was really cute, and also just that the aesthetic of the city was like spot on for what the book was going for. And yeah, I just really, really love these. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but like I love to talk about books that I love. Obviously, I have this YouTube channel and you're watching it, so you know I love to talk about books that I love. And these are all books that I especially love, so it's just like perfect storm. The next book I want to talk about is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Barnett. The Secret Garden is the story of a girl named Mary who is an orphan, and she's sent to live in the house of this very imposing man who has a very sick son. And she's not very nice. They like to tease her by singing like the Mary, Mary, quite contrary rhyme. And she discovers a garden, a secret garden hidden behind a wall on the grounds of this estate where she's been sent to live, and it's about her making friends and raising this garden and really kind of like learning more about the world. I only read this one a couple times when I was younger. I don't remember all the details, but I remember really, really enjoying it. I remember really, really identifying with Mary in the way that she felt uncomfortable and she didn't really know her place in the world, and I just love the idea of like blossoming within a garden that is also blossoming, and it's just so sweet, and I really like it. Up next, I want to talk about the Anne of Green Gables series by L.M. Montgomery. This is the first one. I actually have all 6, but only the first 3 did I actually like. I really, really did not like the last one, so I'm just going to focus on these. Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Avonlea, and Anne of the Island. So I love these. She was a quick-witted redhead. She didn't fit in. She was funny. She was different. She used her imagination like beyond above all else, and I just really, really loved Anne of Green Gables. They were some of the first historical coming-of-age stories that I read, like so books that were older and written about children. I read House on the Prairie, Little House on the Prairie series after this. I also read Little Women after I read these, so these were really the first. And I think what really drew me to these was the fact that Anne, she is so imaginative. That's what really, really got me, is that she is dedicated and devoted to being absolutely nothing but herself, and that was really inspiring to me. So I really have a special place in my heart for Anne of Green Gables, and I really want to watch the show that just came out. I think it's called Anne with an E. I think it's on Netflix. I'm not super sure, but I've heard it was really good, and since I love the book so much, I'd really like to check it out. The next book I want to talk about is Holes by Louis Sekar. I don't really know how to say his last name. And if you don't know what this book is about, it's about a boy who is sent to kind of like a juvenile detention camp with other like young criminals, and he learns more about what happened to him, what happened to the town where this camp is, and what happened in the lives of the other boys, and also figuring out his family history, because there's like kind of a curse that's been put on his family, that so everybody in his family has really, really bad luck. And this was really, really, I keep saying really, which is not great if I'm trying to be a reviewer, but this book was one of the first movie adaptations where I saw the movie and then read the book and realized how good the book was. And the movie is also one of the best book adaptations I've ever seen. And they're both so independently well done, and I was so impressed by them, and I was so impressed by how much more you get out of this book without taking away from the movie. So this really became a favorite. I used to read it all the time. I loved the end of it, and the main character's name is Stanley Yelnats, so Yelnats is his last name, is his first name spelled backwards, and I kind of want to get a dog and name my dog Stanley Yelnats, and I think that would be really cute, but Yeah, Holes, oof, so good. The next one I want to talk about is Fairest by Gail Carson Levine. So this is by the same author as Ella Enchanted. It does take place in the same universe as Ella Enchanted, but it's about a completely different kingdom. This book is about the main character, Aza, who is the daughter of like these innkeepers on kind of the far reaches of the kingdom. She is not beautiful. She does not like looking in the mirror, and she's just very self-conscious of her appearance because she's so different looking than the rest of her family. And she also has an amazing voice, like a beautiful voice, the gift for imitation, and the gift for being able to throw her voice so it sounds like it's coming from anywhere else in the room. Through a series of events, she comes to the castle and begins helping the queen disguise the fact that she cannot sing. And there's magic involved, there's fairies involved. It's another situation of a fairy giving a gift gone wrong, kind of like in Ella Enchanted. But I really, really liked this book because it dealt with issues with self-image and also love, and I really liked this. I remember recommending it to a lot of friends when I was younger and just like refusing to like lend them the book because I was really scared they'd never give it back. It was also one of my favorite covers. I just thought that the cover was really beautiful with the gold and the woman with the mirror, and like the back was really nice. I don't know. The book is upside down within the sleeve. It was upside down. Awesome! So let me fix that. Probably means it's time to move on. The next book I want to talk about is Ramona Forever by Beverly Cleary. So this is a part of the expansive Ramona universe. There's like Ramona and Beezus and a couple others. This was really surprising that I liked this when I first read it because I had tried to read Ramona the Pest and I got so uncomfortable for the way that Ramona was acting and just like the really secondhand embarrassment. Started young. I still can't watch The Office because it gives me anxiety because of my secondhand embarrassment thing, but I didn't think I was going to like this if only because Ramona had made me so uncomfortable before, and I ended up loving this book. So in this book, her aunt gets engaged, and so Ramona's kind of learning a little bit more about relationships and the world and just dealing with stuff at school and her family, and it's super cute. I honestly don't remember that much about it. I remember really liking it. I remember liking it enough that I pulled it into this list of favorite childhood books because I know I read it all the time, but it's been a long time. I'm 22 now, and maybe I'll read it again soon. I don't know. Second to last, I want to talk about the Amulet graphic novel series. So I have the first 3 here. I have the 4th, 5th, and 6th over there. I know there's at least 2 more that I just haven't gotten yet, but I've been reading this book series, I think, since 5th grade. One of these Scholastic book fairs, I miss you guys. I want there to be like Scholastic book fairs for adults where they like come to your work and like set up in the cafeteria or something. But I didn't realize what this book was going to be and how short it was. So I bought it in like 5th grade, read it during lunch because it's a graphic novel and they're not very long, and then tried to return it after lunch. And I walked up to the cash register and I was like, can I return this? And she said, why? And instead of being like, it's not the one I wanted, I said, I finished it. And she said, you can't just return a book because you finished it. So I ended up having to keep the first one. And because of that, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to have this, then I'm going to enjoy it. God damn it. And so I read it again, and I ended up actually really liking it. It's about a girl, her brother, and her mom who move into her, I think, estranged great uncle's house after he passes away. They've kind of hit on some tough times. They have to move out of the city. While they're moving into the house, the daughter sees her mom kind of being swept away down the stairs into the basement, and she has to go and rescue her. And through this doorway in the basement, they discover this huge fantasy world filled with monsters and talking animals and magic, and the daughter is gifted this amulet, and people who are amulet holders can kind of manipulate power, kind of in like a Green Lantern-y, like if you see it, you can like visualize like the fist kind of thing. So she can like manipulate the energy in this amulet, but the amulet is also an independent being, and there's also some larger political things going on in this world through the portal, basically. I don't think it's really a portal, but through the doorway in the basement of her great uncle's house. Her great uncle, who turns out was deeply involved with this world. It's a super inventive story. There's a lot of really cool characters. There's an elf prince who's like a bad boy. But like, it's super beautiful. The art is like simple but very, very well done. It's just a lot of like really cool world building. That's the very last page of book 1. So it's just really, really beautiful. I love the style. I love the story. And it's something that I've been reading basically since I was, 10? And I just really, really like it. So I have to stop saying the word really. This is getting embarrassing. But let's go to the very last book. And I saved this one for last because I have a lot of very strong feelings about it, and no one has, literally no one has ever heard of it. And it is Leon and the Spitting Image by Alan Kurzweil. This book is so good. It is about I think, 4th grader named Leon, and he is starting... Is it 4th grade? It is 4th grade. He's starting 4th grade. He doesn't really know like what his teacher's going to be like. He gets to class, and she's this weird, creepy, tall, skinny lady, right? And she basically just makes them sew. She makes them sew dolls, animals, stuffed animals, and the whole class is kind of about their production of these stuffed animals, basically. And Leon is bad at it, sick of it. He doesn't like it. It's not fun. So to try and like get back at her, because she's not very like supportive of his like getting better, he makes an exact replica of her. And it kind of gets a little out of hand when they realize they can kind of use it as sort of a voodoo doll to control the way she moves. And it is so good. I have never read anything like it. It's really, look at the cool illustrations on the end papers. It's like different eyes of things that they use in like the stuffed animals. And it's just, I remember being like entranced while I read this because it was so well done. And no one's ever heard of it. It's so good. Obviously, it's for kids. If I read it right now, I don't think that I would like it nearly as much. But I read this when I was in 3rd grade, and I loved it. And I thought no one had ever heard of it. And I was just shocked. I was appalled. I think everybody should have read it. I think that it's such a strange premise because he's just sewing. He's sewing. He's learning how to sew. He's learning how to stitch. He's learning how to create these things. He's making friends. He's dealing with bullies, and I just loved it so much. That's all the books that I have for you today. This was not my most eloquent, well-spoken, well-planned out video. I hope I really got some of my feelings across about these books. I hope I didn't bore you too much, and I hope that you'll come back to watch another one of my videos if you've read any of these, or if you have any other childhood favorites that I didn't talk about but might want to hear about. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!